Welcome Avinash Kumar Srivastav ji, Dr. K. Om Narayan Rao Sahib, and Jagruti Chauhan ma'am, Mukund Soni ji, Mukund ji, and Wasawa Anjana Ben ji. Somebody has joined with iPhone also. LK. Welcome all of you. Let us begin with the prayer. ॐ नमो अरिहन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्यायाणं नमो लोये सव्वसाहुणं एषो पञ्चनमुक्कारो सव्वपावपणाशनो मङ्गलाणं च सव्येसिं पढमं हवै मङ्गलम् ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमः शिवाय जय सच्चिदानंद जय सच्चिदानंद वेलकम everybody, thank you very much. Next slide please. Yeah, Rani ji, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Friends, today we are going to have our fourth webinar on stress management. One very popular ghazal is there in Hindi कि सीने में जलन आंखों में तूफान सा क्यों है, इस शहर में हर शख्स परेशान सा क्यों है. Means almost everybody is under stress, under tension, not happy. A lot of storm is going on within, resulting in worries and anxiety. So we have today Rani Krishnan to give holistic approach to this topic. Ms. Rani Krishnan is a public health specialist for the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. She provides training and technical assistance to countries in Africa and Asia on establishing public health emergency management programs to respond to large-scale health emergencies such as COVID-19, Ebola, yellow fever, cholera, and many more. Raniji has responded to health emergencies domestically and internationally and trains medical and public health professionals throughout the world. Well, the content of this presentation, as the disclaimer says, reflect her personal views and are not affiliated with the USCDC. Welcome, Rani Krishnan ji. Please start. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Uncle. Jai Sachidanand to all participants. Good morning, and thank you for joining today. So today's topic, as we discussed, is about stress management, and I will advance the slide. And as Chandrakant Uncle Ji said, this is a very popular topic. I am by no means an expert in this. I'm still very much learning daily how to manage stress. But the topics first for the presentation will cover the concept of stress, and then we'll move to the stress management aspect of the presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, I would just like to define stress. And stress is a biological response to a perceived threat. So every living being experiences stress, not just human beings, animals, plants, the whole natural world experiences different levels of stress. So stress is very much, it's a normal reaction to everyday pressures. This can include survival, in the animal world. This can include, the predator versus prey. There's stress experienced on both sides of that. So it is a normal everyday biological response, but stress can become unhealthy when it upsets your day-to-day functioning. And we'll talk about that Stress involves changes affecting nearly every system of the body. So it affects you physically. It also affects you emotionally and psychologically. So, by causing mind body changes in stress, this contributes to psychological issues and disorders, and it can also contribute to diseases. It affects mental health, physical health, and overall stress can and has been scientifically shown to reduce quality of life. Next slide, please. So, one thing I want to emphasize in this presentation is that there are two types of stress. So one is called eustress, and this is seen as positive stress. And the other is distress, which is seen kind of as negative when we experience negative circumstances. So eustress, let's talk about that. Stress, there can be times where stress is positive. For example, marriage, birth of a new child, if you're a student pursuing academic, professional, or even personal goals. Exercise is a type of positive stress. So we walk, we run, we move, we stress our bodies, but it's a good and positive thing. Um, Sometimes people have challenging work. My work, for example, very challenging emergency response, but it's also very fulfilling. So that is also seen as a positive type of stress. Also, learning new skills, learning a new language, learning to cook a new dish, learning to paint, any skill that you're learning that's helping with growth is what we see as positive stress. On the other side, we have distress. So this is seen as negative stress. This is seen as things where we are maybe overworked. I think I'm not able to see the slide. So just appreciate your patience. I had more technical difficulties than I thought. Thank you, Uncle. Okay, so distress. Distress is seen as negative stress. So probably all of us have experienced a combination of both, but examples of distress can be financial problems, things like bankruptcy, loss of a job, relationship problems within a family or even at work, death of a loved one, diagnosis of an illness, especially a terminal illness. Um, Things like the media can cause distress and even current events. So, one thing that's affecting all of us right now is the Air India crash. It was such a, tragedy, a traumatic experience. I'm sure for those of you in India, but even for us abroad. That is an example of where it can cause distress, within just people who are observing, but especially with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
families of those impacted. Next slide, please. So we talked about, negative and positive stress. Now there's sort of, again, another layer of types of stress. So the first one is acute stress. So this is something body's immediate reaction to a new and challenging situation. So if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, an example of acute stress is you are working and you accept a new and exciting 6-month training opportunity at work. But this opportunity requires you to temporarily relocate and you have to leave your family. So this is an example of eustress. You're provided a positive work opportunity, and it's sort of a sudden thing. So it immediately happens, and that's what we see as temporary, quick, acute stress. A very strenuous workout can also do the same thing. The next type or level of stress is episodic acute stress. So this might be that you have multiple episodes of acute stress. So in the example, you've taken the job, your spouse is supportive of this training opportunities for 6 months. So now you must make logistical arrangements to move to another city within 2 months. So you also, in the meantime, have to transition all of your existing projects to your coworkers. And at home, you have to work with your spouse to plan for your move, and what activities, your spouse will have to endure while you're gone. And so all this is happening, and then 1 week later, you're on your way home from work and you get into a car accident and your lower back is injured. So this is what we call episodic acute stress, where there's multiple factors that are short term, but they're all sort of happening frequently and concurrently. And then finally, the last one, which I think many of us have experienced, is chronic stress, which you have high levels of stress for an extended period of time. So here in the example on the right, you have not fully recovered from the car accident, and your mobility is now limited. It's difficult to perform daily tasks, let alone manage the car repairs, moving to a new city, and transitioning your existing projects. You're also supposed to be embarking on this training program, but you are losing interest in the training opportunity and you start to dread it. So this is an example sort of how that stress, many multiple things can add up, and you just sort of stay in a state of constant stress. Next slide, please. So one of the references here that I read for this presentation was Mr. or Dr. Uday Parikh's understanding of organizational behavior. And in this image, it talks about how it is appropriate to have some level of stress in your life. You don't want to have low stress. So low stress is sort of seen at the left side of the bell curve, and it is results in lack of motivation, boredom, low performance, dull health, and fatigue. Meaning that, you're not experiencing enough momentum and enough stress to get you to act or do something. So we don't want to have we want to have some level of what Dr. Parikh calls optimum stress, which is that eustress, that positive stress, where we're exercising, we're learning, we're growing as people, we're challenging ourselves to live up to our full potential. So this phase results in high energy, enthusiasm, motivation, good performance, and good health. Once you cross over into high stress, this is where it becomes unbalanced or imbalanced again, and now you are experiencing distress. So high stress results in exhaustion, fatigue, anxiety, nervousness, and that starts to impact your judgment, your ability to perform, whether it's work, whether it's within your family. It can also have many, physical problems, heightened blood pressure, lack of sleep, insomnia, and mental and physical illness. Next slide.
Yeah.
Thank you, Uncle. So now we've talked a little bit about types of stress. So now I want to talk a little bit about the effects of stress. So now for the rest of this presentation, we're mainly focusing on the distress. We're talking about the negative stress, the high stress, that side of the spectrum, not about positive stress. So, your body on stress. Stress affects, as you can see in this image, almost every internal system. It affects your circulation. It affects high blood pressure. Hormones will flood your body. One stress hormone that always kind of comes up is cortisol. And while in some levels that is positive to have cortisol is naturally produced, if it comes out of imbalance, it causes inflammation. You start to have clouded thoughts, poor judgment. You tend to get sick more often. You get suppressed immune system. Stress notoriously affects the stomach, it affects digestion, kidney function, circulation, a multiple problems. So it can really set off a chain reaction of health impacted events that affect you physically. Next slide. Okay, so we talked about stress on the body. Now we're going to talk about impacts of stress on the mind. So, stress can manifest in many ways. It manifests differently in different people. So, sometimes it will be anger, extreme anger, mood swings, anxiety and worry, depression. And then with depression comes isolation. People stop wanting to participate in any activity that, whether they have to or whether it brings them joy. Poor cognitive function, so the ability to make decisions gets less and less. So you start making kind of, it's find it more difficult to make decisions, good decisions. It can cause strained relationships in the family, around friends. It can affect your sleep. It can give you insomnia. Acute stress also can lead to hopelessness. And then with hopelessness, people seek escape. It could lead to addiction for certain substances or even certain behaviors, such as gambling. Stress can also lead to apathy, meaning that you don't care about yourself, you don't care about others, you just really shut down emotionally. And worst of all, stress can affect harm, it can result in harming of self. Worst case is taking your own life, but also harming of others. You can end up abusing others with when you are under extreme levels of stress. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So for this slide, I just want to talk about that again, that, everybody responds to stressors differently. And I want to also bring up this trauma response because these are also different reactions. Like if you're encountering, maybe you're not experiencing stress, but you're noticing someone else that you're close to, maybe a family member. This slide has really helped me kind of understand that everyone doesn't respond the same way. So, stress, again, we said at the beginning, is a biological reaction to a perceived threat. Well, trauma is the emotional response to a distressing or physical or emotional event. So, I think just based on our news media, we can think of many, many events in the past 6 months that that could produce trauma. So, when we experience trauma, it triggers one or several trauma responses, and trauma responses can be prolonged. So it can be well after the event happened, people can still be stuck in these response cycles. And then we continue to experience stress, and it continues to have multiple impacts. So even in the wild, their animals express stress and have these reactions in the wild as well, and they're different based on the animal. So one of the first and very common ones is flight. Flight is when in nature, it's like when a mouse is running away from a cat. Okay, it's escaping the trigger of stress. But for us, when we experience trauma, sometimes what happens is we want to avoid. So we start to take on a lot of extra things to become distracted. This is where addiction can come in, where we want to escape the problem. So we turn to substances. You might overeat, you might stress eat, or you may, stay perpetually busy to avoid your problems. So that is kind of how trauma affects that behavior, but it's flight. Fight is sort of where people become combative. So this is where they become angry, they could hurt themselves, they could hurt others, but they're ready to be combative and many times destructive. Flop. This is one that where you almost just like in nature, again, I have a lot of wildlife examples, but this is where an animal pretend to be dead. It will, just um,
Yeah, yeah.
humans can faint under extreme stress. They kind of lose physical control. So much of this will be like fainting, just kind of shutting down. But it is a trauma response. And the reason these are important is because, again, maybe you don't do these, or maybe you have done these behaviors in the past, but it's also that you can become more empathetic. If other people are displaying these reactions, they may need help. Another trauma response is actually fawning, where people actually become, they kind of repress their own needs and they just try to kind of, mask their stress by being a people pleaser, by doing everything for others, but neglecting their own health, neglecting their own sleep, neglecting their own needs. This is not to say people that are helpful are all in this. This is only when they've experienced a trauma and this becomes their natural reaction. And then freeze is when people disassociate and just shut down. And sometimes you've even seen people of extreme trauma that are unable to speak. They just go silent. So these are all different ways of our body, mind, emotions all working together and reacting to stressors in the environment. Next slide. Yes, and I see also in the chat someone put burnout. Burnout is absolutely the shutting down, um, a burnout at work, which means like you just start to lose interest, you start to lose motivation or excitement. That also is a trauma response that comes with excess stress. So, causes of stress can be internal and external. So, internal stressors are a lot of times due to our own emotions and expectations. So, this is where sort of what's going on in your internal dialogue. This can be anxiety, worry, fear, grief, guilt, shame, anger, resentment, comparing yourself with others, meaning that these stressors are coming from within. Okay. And we're not putting judgment that or anything, not saying that these things are wrong, but they do stress out your body. If you're constantly worried, if you're constantly resentful, if you're constantly on social media comparing yourself to others, you are actually stressing out your body, like all those systems in that first slide, the heart, your lungs, everything is uh, having that experience because of the stress. So those are internal stressors, but there are also multiple external stressors that are caused by the physical environment. And this list is not all, but these are just some examples. Of course, we're seeing a lot of war, genocide, violence, extreme, poverty is a huge cause of stress that impacts how long people live. It impacts not only quality of life, but actually how long people live, their lifespan. Politics and corruption. This can be huge stressors for people because the decisions of politicians can then impact, regular people like us. Natural disasters becoming more and more common, which causes loss of life, loss to property, can cause lots of stress. Environmental pollution, I read that this is actually one big external stressor. And it's getting more and more common throughout the world that the effect of the environment is actually, stressing people's physiological and mental and emotional well-being. Of course, workplace stress, and I put social media, but all media really can contribute to external stressors. So next slide, please. In adults, the major causes of stress, this was a article that I read that these are just kind of the big categories, but are the most common stressors in adults that are not experiencing violence, poverty, and those extreme stressors are really work pressure and job loss, um, bereavement, death of close people, relationships challenges, and financial challenges. So in adults, these tend to be the four top categories of people uh, who are safe, who have, who are not like impoverished and experiencing war. This is what we would say their kind of major causes of stress are. In children, major causes of stress are actually from social pressure. So very different from what the adults are facing, but this a lot of times is bullying, being accepted in school, um, the pressure to fit in, to impress your peers. That's actually what children rank as some of their highest stressors. Of course, studying for exams is another big stress. And then parental, even challenges, but also divorce tends to have many long-lasting negative impacts on children in terms of stress levels. Next slide, please. Okay, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but many of us who are working, this also comes from Dr. Uday Parikh's um, organizational stress booklet, but this is kind of breaks down sort of what individuals and organizations experience as stress. So you can have sort of individual stress, which are in the green. So the green and the kind of teal is like the individual part. This is things like your career or your role. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe you work shift work, which actually is very bad for you. It stresses out your body and disrupts your sleep. So there's lots of research on the rotating shifts is actually not good for you in many ways. But the individual is more focused on their career progression, their roles, the demands from their boss, that type of thing. As you get into the bottom part of the circle, you're now starting to look at the management affecting the individual. So this could be that maybe the individual feels, I'm not part of decisions that are being made. I'm overloaded with work. Could also be I'm underutilized. I don't have enough work, and that can cause stress. Poor working conditions, crowded workspaces, unsafe workspaces, all of these things cause stress, both in individuals and in an organization, in a company. And then you get into these purple, which starts to become more about the organization itself. So if your workers are unhappy, if your workers are stressed, you as an organization are going to also suffer. You're going to see lack of group cohesiveness. you're going to see a lot of interpersonal, but also intergroup conflict. You're going to start to see organizational changes. Maybe people start to all start to quit, leave the organization, and then lack of social support. So this is one that affects both the individual, but also organizations as a whole. So these are just, I thought, a really good image of kind of breaking down for the working people how stress impacts you individually and collectively. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've talked about types of stress, causes of stress, and now I'm starting to transition into the holistic view that before we get into stress management. So, one thing I want to reiterate is that stress is a global problem. Yes, everyone experiences it. But what is interesting is that space, so the geography where you are located, actually also shows there are different types of stressors in the environment, but also different countries have different experiences with stress. So, of course, where there are past and stress is greatest in places where there is war, genocide, natural disasters, famine, and poverty. This can be experienced collectively as a country. So, like, for example, Afghanistan still is rated the top country that experiences the most stress. That was in 2023. Now, I'm sure, given the current climate, that there are other countries who surpass because of these factors. In 2021, 4 in 10 adults worldwide said they experienced a lot of worry or stress. Stress levels in the workplace are rising. 6 out of 10 workers in major global economies experience increased workplace stress, with China having the highest rise of workplace stress. Europe's economy lost 20 billion euros a year due to work-related stress. And in the US, about 300 billion is lost due to stress, and the illnesses, missed work, all of that is what's counted in here. About 57% of surveyed Americans say that stress paralyzes them. And about 89% of the population in India said they are suffering from stress compared to the global average of 86%. So that means that India's cumulative average is above the global average in terms of stress experienced by individuals. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this one, I would like a volunteer. If anyone would like to read these quotes about how stress is actually also affected by time and the time phase that we're in. So would anybody like to volunteer to read these two quotes?
Stress levels affected by time.
Thank you.
Can I read it?
Yes, please.
Religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of a life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. Srimad Bhagavatam 12.2.1. The citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow. They will be further tormented by sorry,
Quarrels.
like I'm not able to read because the
Okay,
caption is
okay. I'll complete it. They will be further tormented by quarrels, hunger, thirst, disease, and severe anxiety. Srimad Bhagavatam 12 to 10. My God.
Yes, and so this, I mean, really outlines this is the time and era that we are in. So by nature of being here, present in this time, this is the norm. This is what, this was predicted thousands of years ago that this will happen in Kali Yuga. So the stress is all of that is part of also the time factor. And in fact, Indian astrologers have predicted that this time for probably until, 2030 is going to be a really stressful time for immense change for the whole world. So, I want us to keep that in mind that, as much as we try, like sometimes we feel hopeless that it's just we're inundated and the world is like this, but it has been said that the world would be like this, and here we are in the midst of it. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've talked about all the kinds of stress, the types of stress by geographic location, space, and stress of the time period. So now we're going to talk about stress management. So stress management are the tools, strategies, or techniques that reduce stress and reduce the negative impacts on stress on your mental and physical well-being. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of ways that we can manage stress in our lifetime are, and I'll talk about some of these more in the holistic approach, is to spend time in nature, prayer, practicing yoga, spending time with friends, exercising, learning how to manage our time, practicing art or creativity, could be poetry, painting, anything, reading, and positive thinking. So these are all, ways that help kind of mitigate some of those stress levels. And again, I have a beautiful quote from The Secrets of Holistic Living. If anyone would like to volunteer, I like to have folks read the quotes.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next little thing is going to be a practical exercise. So what I want everybody to do is take a few minutes, just 1 minute, to think about after you saw all this presentation on stress, what is something that causes stress in your life? And you don't have to say it out
Oh,
loud, type it in the chat, but just think about that. And I want you to focus on that particular thing. It could be conflict, it could be any of the things we mentioned, or maybe we didn't mention. But I want you to focus on it to the point where you start to actually experience some of that stress. That's part two. And then, Uncle, when we're ready, if we could move to the next slide.
yeah, yeah. So participants, just close your eyes and just ponder what source of stresses you have. This is for identifying the stressor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, ma'am, should I change the slide?
Yes. This is the part where hopefully we can. So
Okay,
on
oh,
this,
fine.
okay, if we can click that link, it should pull
Yeah,
up
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So yes,
Let me check.
thank you, Uncle. While he's pulling up the video, everyone keep focusing on your stress.
Sharing is a shared condos closed. What is
And
that?
it's, yeah,
1 minute.
no problem.
Control click. Control and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, let's just take a few minutes to do this breathing exercise while you're thinking about your stressors. Okay. So when the ball goes up, you breathe in. You hold your breath when it stays flat. And as it comes down, you breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and this is, on YouTube, there are many of these little breathing exercises, but they're really good. I mean, even
Yeah.
if you're at work or anything, you can just breathing. That was not listed as one of the things, but breathing is one of the most fundamental ways to reduce stress and get you back to your center, get you grounded.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, it has been absolutely shown, and I think
It is, yeah.
Mr. Ramtirth Patel is going to do a session on holistic prayers. Like, there's a whole the holistic science has a lot about prayers, but prayers do reduce and prevent stress. One, because they require presence of the individual who's praying, but also they require surrender. And when you have that combination of presence and the humility of surrendering, it creates a type of energy, a positive energy that is it's impossible for stress to stick to that. It uplifts your internal energy level, your spiritual energy level. So I would ask, please, if someone could read another quote from the Bhagavatam that gives us the solution to what we talked about in a few slides earlier. Would anyone like to read this quote?
Yes, anybody who has who can see it clearly on the screen can attempt.
Please.
Yes.
May I please?
Yeah, Mukunji.
Thank you. Uh, Prayers require presence and surrender while creating an environment surrounds with positive energy. The most important factor in this age of Kali, which is an ocean of faults, is that one can be free from all contaminations and become eligible to enter the kingdom of God simply by chanting the holy names. The self-realization that was achieved in the Satya millennium, that is
Yeah.
Satyug, by meditation
Yeah.
in the Tetra millennium, that is Treta Yuga, by the performance of different sacrifices, and in the Dwapar millennium, Dwapar Yuga, by worship of Lord Krishna, can be achieved in the age of Kali simply by chanting the holy names. Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Nahi,
Jai
Bhagavatam.
Sachidananda.
Yes, it is Sri Bhagavatam, Mukunji. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So as you can see, the power of prayers, and in this time period, this yuga that we're in, this is one of the most important factors to combating, or not combat, but to protecting ourselves from the ocean of faults that is out there. Next slide, please. And these are, these holistic approaches to stress management. So when we talk about holistic science, I think one of the most important and unique aspects about holistic science is the root causes of stress are the internal ones. And not the internal ones of anxiety, worry, all that, but the real reason lies within us. So this is the one who suffers is at fault. So whenever we become a victim of an accident, a business loss, cheating, theft at home or office, any unpleasant event, we're always likely to blame someone else. We're always looking at who can we blame. Although appearing real, it is in fact an illusion. The real reason lies within us. Once we notice and accept our own fault as a crucial evidence to a generation of all the maladies we're facing, half the remedy is done, as in case of a true diagnosis. So what this means is that there has that suffering that you experienced was intended for you. And I think this is one of the biggest things that our ego prevents us from accepting, that this may have come from another birth, another life, or even something you did 6 months ago, that there's a rule of cause and effect. And I think some of our future presentations are going to talk about this. And what the holistic science and Dada Bhagwan has said is that the one who suffers is at fault. So the one who's experiencing the anxiety, the worry, the guilt, all those internal stresses, that is coming from your own not understanding that you have brought this onto yourself. And it's a concept that I think a lot of us kind of struggle with. But once you notice and accept that, yes, I am suffering because of my past mistakes, it gives you the opportunity to remedy and improve your situation. Next slide. So the other big root cause of stress that holistic science and speaks about is giving opinions. So having multiple opinions, actually, if you start to believe your opinions about other people, about places, about events, it actually starts to distort your perception of the world. You're actually creating more of a veil of ignorance, and you're distorting how, the world is actually perceived, because you're so locked into your opinion. When you accept, instead of saying, this person is a liar, this person always gets angry, if you accept that that's how they are, it actually multiplies psychological energy within you, and your opinion reduces. So there's also power of acceptance in stress management. Opinions cause loss of creativity, overreactivity of the mind, and loss of inner silence. Opinions also weaken the nervous systems, leading to fear and psychosis. So this is a very subtle thing that is within us. And I have noticed that a lot of my stress is due to my own opinions. And that's a me problem. That's not other people. So I urge you to maybe take a look within yourselves and say, how much of my problems are because I'm not accepting people for who they are. I'm not accepting my situation for what it is right now. And I'm getting sucked into that resentment and negativity because of opinions. Next slide, please. So, a holistic solution to opinions provided by Dada Bhagwan is spending time introspecting on how your opinions cause you internal distress. You know, if you are constantly giving opinions about your boss, you're going to hate going into work every day. And that's causing you internal distress. Your boss is not doing, your boss is living their life just fine, but you're the one getting worked up internally. So pay attention to what you think or believe is good and bad, and whether it's people or circumstances. So in a day, just count how many times you have an opinion about, oh, this person's bad, this person's always late, and circumstances like I hate this car, I don't like my house. It could be so many things, but start paying attention to when you think good or bad things about people and circumstances. Just watch and observe. And because opinions in holistic science are cleared through observation. So the minute you recognize, oh, you know what? I gave an opinion about somebody, or that was an opinion, it starts to clear them out. It starts to mitigate the strength of that opinion. So you observe it, and then you ask for forgiveness, and you ask for strength not to repeat that mistake, not to continually have that opinion. So Dada Bhagwan in the Aptavani has said, effort to come out of opinion is equivalent to psychological pranayama. It helps us in purifying and controlling the mind. So if there is no other thing that you take away from this presentation, it's this sentence, kind of summarizes, I think, for all of us, could greatly impact our lives for the better. And last but not least is expectation. And expectations are the root of all heartache. That's a quote from William Shakespeare. So expectations are a strong belief that something will happen or it has to be a certain way in the future. You can have expectations of yourself, but where we suffer is when we start to expect that other people be a certain way, do a certain thing. Expectations create inner resistance and cause inner turmoil. They breed disappointment and resentment. It results in more opinions and finding faults in others. Expectations are rooted in false beliefs that happiness comes from external sources. So, oh, if I only get this job, I'll be happy. If I get this car, I'll be happy. If, my spouse makes this meal today, I'll be happy. All of those things are causing you personally internal stress. And they are false beliefs because none of that is going to really give you true happiness and escape from stress. Expectations also pull you out of being present. So it actually decreases your energy levels, your internal energy levels, spiritual energy, because you, instead of being present, where that is where you are energetically at your strongest, you're thinking about what if I want this, so you're going out and you're also not, you're spending time in the future, not in the present. So expectations cause us harm internally and externally. Next slide, please. And the same solution, is from holistic science, that like opinions, these should be observed, and you introspect that how much of my stress is caused by my expectations that I'm putting on myself. Now, sometimes expectations are necessary. Like if in work you're a boss, you're a manager, you have to expect that your employees do their job, you hold them to expectations. That is a cause of eustress. That is a positive thing. You have to have expectations. But when your expectations become unrealistic or that becomes the cause of your stress, is because they're not meeting the expectation, that's when you start to that's when it becomes imbalance and becomes distress. So pay attention to phrases like "it would be better if," or "I want it to be this way or that way or my way." That is the kind of stuff that is sticky about expectations. And instead of thinking about "it would be better if I had this, outfit or this, material thing," focus on what you do have. So focus on gratitude to help reduce expectations. So again, I believe this is a quote from the Holistic Science. When our expectations will change to acceptance, the most powerful basis of spiritual practice, there will be no more prejudices, annoyances, irritations, tensions. There will only be joy and peace in watching the unity in diversity of all experiences. So peace begins when expectation ends. And I think the next slide is the last one, which is another big root cause of stress is egoism. Egoism is attachment to identity, roles that you play in your life, home, work, and society. Your desire for external sources of happiness, your failure to recognize illusion and impermanence as a natural part of worldly existence, and lack of understanding that everything that happens is correct. So if the quote here says, "Starve the ego, feed the soul." And in the Aptavani, Dada's Aptavani Volume 1, nobody has set it in motion and nobody can. The world goes on of its own accord. Only egoism boasts, "I work this huge machine called the world." If egoism is renounced, the world is renounced. This is very profound statement, but this really, if you want to get to the root of your problems, of your stress, it's through holistic science, which is all targeting the roots. Because if you don't remove the roots, the plant will just grow back. Next slide, please. So in summary, I know we've covered a lot, but the holistic solutions that we want you to take away from this presentations are searching for the fault or cause of stress within you and correcting it. So all other efforts are merely movements of mind, speech, and body. So what we mean here is look for where you are contributing to the stress. Prayer, surrender and ask for help. All of our problems, all of our faults have a solution. That's the beauty of holistic science. Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's given us the answer here. Just by praying, you can improve your situation. Meditation of all types are beneficial for stress management, but specifically introspection. Asking forgiveness for mistakes and resolving not to repeat them. So the Pratikraman prayer, and I believe there's a session on that coming up. Applying knowledge that the one who suffers is at fault by examining the stressor through this lens. So this again goes back to introspection. And it is an ongoing, lifelong process. This is not a one and done kind of solutions. These are for your entire life. But the more you do it, the more joy you will experience. Applying the concept that everyone is correct according to their viewpoint. So examining the situation with this perspective will help you reduce opinions of others, which are very much a barrier and a cause of stress in our worlds. Understanding the purpose of human life specifically your life. I think this one, when we get stressed, we lose kind of the big picture of what our purpose is of as humans. And the purpose of human life is to understand the world and see it clearly through practicing holistic science. So the more you attend these seminars and the more you cultivate the practice of holistic science, you will expand your purpose of life beyond your day-to-day activities. So I want to give everybody an optional homework assignment. This is not to be done today, but this is if you get a chance, this video, my mom actually shared this video with me, and I have started to use it every day when I drive to work. So you can either sit in a quiet place and do it. This is from Sri Adi Shankara. It's ancient, from 6th century. It's called the Brahma Nyanvali Mala, which is based on the story that Adi Shankara, his guru, asked him, tell me what you know about yourself. And this was the mantra that he came up with. The music and the lyrics are absolutely beautiful. And I have been practicing this since I knew I was going to do this presentation as an experiment every day before I go to work. And I can tell you it instantly melts away my stress. So I urge all of you in your free time after this presentation to give this just a few minutes, give this listen, and more importantly, read the lyrics, because it's absolutely beautiful and will help your stress. So with that, we are, I think, at the last slide, which is the references. So these were the references used for the presentation. And now, and I just want to thank everybody for attending the seminar today.
Oh my God, my
Uncle,
goodness,
back to you.
we are very, very, very grateful. Please accept our humble obeisance and gratefulness. Gratitude to you, Raniji. My God, I was never exposed to such a brilliant and elaborative, all covering holistic presentation on stress. I do not find suitable words to express my thanks and to talk about this presentation. Participants are asking for sharing the slide. So would you permit to share these slides in the group? Please unmute
Yes.
yourself. Yeah,
Okay,
with your
I will.
permission, you can share.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for that. Huh? Raniji, thanks a lot. And dear participants, this was Rani Krishnan ji from USA, and my God, she deals, and I think the presentation came up so effectively because it came up from personal experiences of the presenter. She works in a very emergencies, in the stressful, and that is why this is called Vachanbal. When things come up from personal experiences, they are very, very effective. I think I should watch this presentation again and again for twice and thrice, to better understanding and to recall it in the stressful situations. Thank you very much, Raniji. Thanks a lot. And participants, our next session will be on 27 July with Miss Meera Ramanathan ji on Adjust Everywhere and Avoiding Clashes. This is a joint topic to related to stress management. So we can further extend this discussion. Thank you very much for joining. All the
Sir,
best to you.
sir,
Yeah. And he has to add something or to say something, please.
sir, I have something to ask if you allow, or if doesn't permit, it's fine.
Yeah. We are on time. You can take 2 minutes. Please ask.
Thank you. uh, Sir, there was a session about stress where the difference between eustress and distress has been explained. Uh,
Yeah.
Generally what happens that we simply make a habit that either we are going to pay attention to something or we are not paying attention. Means either we allow ourselves to generate stress or we don't allow ourselves to generate stress. So,
Right.
just allowing the useless to happen in our body or in our mind or in our conscious process, cognitive processes, and not allowing to produce the distress, I personally am finding very difficult. So, if uh, Honorable Rani ji, if she can help me in this regard, I would be very helpful personally.
Well, I think we're all struggling with that. I think,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning, this is a journey that we are on. That this is a constant. So, I mean, I think with eustress, the point being is that, and let me make sure I understand the question, but with eustress being a positive experiences, I would say, or things that are maybe difficult but are good for you. So, like going for a walk is an example of eustress, actually. You're stressing out your body, but you're doing it in a positive, you're doing something that in the long term benefits you. So, that is something you should allow in your life. Um, Also, it like holistic science doesn't say stop living your life. So you want to seek opportunities in your career. You want to strive to be a good family member, a good person, a good contributor in society. All of these things are examples of eustress that are, yes, there may be change. You might be a little bit anxious, like you might be learning a new language or something. But we're not saying, shut down the world and don't challenge yourself because, you need stress. Like just like a plane is taking off, it has to have that resistance and speed to help it take off the ground, right? So like that resistance is actually positive in the sense that that is what helps the plane achieve a speed to get off the ground. So those are good examples of stress. Where you are right, Dr. Mukund, is that the distress is what we have to watch and not allow it to be all consuming.
Yeah.
And this is the part. And by engaging in things that are good for you, you will slowly start to see that you'll create a boundary that, yes, I'm in a stressful situation. I'm in an emergency response and people are dying around me. But I'm not going to decompensate and neglect everything about myself because now I'm not able to help others. So I think that piece, slowly with time, the more positive things you do, and meditation, prayer, more balance you bring, it will get you to that optimum stress so that you are not doing anything, which is the low stress, but you're doing optimum stress. So you're doing some things that bring enough stress and you're not getting sidelined by distress. I hope that
Yeah,
answers your
yeah.
question. But like I said, I'm certainly not stress-free. You
Thank
can
you.
ask my mom.
But,
No, no,
sir,
it was
one thing, sir,
very
namaskar,
well.
sir, namaskar. One thing, I thank Madam for a very beautiful lecture. It was really interesting and practical also. At one point, Madam spoke that if somebody is in stress and he has stopped caring his own self and also others, this is the dangerous mark one should observe. Because one who has stopped caring himself and others is a man who seeks isolation, and it is dangerous in two ways. First of all, he may end up his life because he's not caring himself. And the other way is when he's not caring others, the family members and the society, it may be dangerous to the society and the family. So such a person needs to be monitored. And somebody has to constantly monitor such a person in stress because either he may end up his own life or he may end the lives of some other. So it may
Right,
lead to
right.
some sort of violence. So this is one point. It's a beautiful point that Madam has made. And one more thing that I wish to make here is when we talk of stress or we talk of happiness, also, both are man-made and both are internal to us. It's not a problem that we seek happiness, but the problem is when we think and think more and more that we want to be happy. So more we think that we seek happiness, that we want to happy, it is where the stress actually starts beginning. It is not a problem that we need to be happy, want to be happy, but the problem is the more we think we want to be happy, we want to be happy, the chances of being happy gets reduced and reduced, and that leads to stress. And that is the point where we need to monitor, where we need to understand, and Madam's lecture will really help us to actually understand this. So this is one point. And one more point that comes to my mind is making things let it go. Okay, something has happened, we should accept it. Yes, Madam has really pointed out we need to accept, but at the same time we need to make things feel that let it go. It has happened, but need to let it go. So this is another point. And one more point is Madam has spoken about ego, and it also comes to my mind. The more we think
Yeah.
I-ness, the sense of I-ness, the sense of agency, that also leads to stress. So if the I-ness is lost in us, maybe we are at peace. I think so. Madam's lecture has really helped us. Thank you. So these are the
Thank you
something that has come to
very
my mind.
much.
Oh, beautiful.
Hey,
Sir, I
Om
have
Shri
two
Narayana
more.
Hari.
Sir, I have two more sentences, if you allow.
Yeah, we are short of time. Mukunji, please, we have to wind up fast.
Okay.
Sure.
Madam, I'm thankful for explaining these two terms and a wonderful lecture. But if you ever come to know more about this, and if there is possibility, do kindly share and help, because this is a very important
Yeah.
problem that I'm facing with myself.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, and that
Jai
time
Satchidanand.
we have recorded it. It will be this session is immortal, and it was we were also live on YouTube, and I'm going to share it widely. Thank you very much. You can also put down your positive comments in the group. I will forward it to Raniji. Thank you very much. It's a time to say goodbye now. Jai Sachidanand. Thanks a lot. Gratitude to Raniji. Thank you very much, participants, for joining. See
Thank you,
you in the
everyone.
next.
Jai
Thank you.
Satchidanand.
Jai
Jai
Satchidanand.
Sachidanand.
Jai
Jai
Satchidanand.
Sachidanand.